Alright, did you know that there are about 9,000 pizzerias in the state of New York? But where did they come from? The first documented pizzeria was in Naples, Italy in about the 18,000s. So today, if you haven't guessed it, I'll be talking about Italy, and after my speech, hopefully you'll be able to list a few facts about it. The reason I chose this topic was my dad lived in Italy for about 3 years-ish, and I grew up listening to stories about what it was like there and his experience there, and grew up doing like every presentation. If you had to choose a country, it would be Italy, just because I already knew what it was about. So my main topics today will be on the food of Italy, of course, and the life in Italy and the landmarks. So first, of course, is pizza. It comes from 1889 when the Queen went to a pizzeria or a shop and wanted a pizza which consisted of tomato sauce, pepperoni and cheese, and some basil. The word pizza comes from pinza, which means flatbread, and the Italian pizza places always use firewood, like oven-baked firewood, and they would never use the dried up cheese that we put on our pizza today sometimes. So I thought that was interesting. My dad always told me every time we get a pizza, he's like, yeah, if you were in Italy, they would be in shock by how much stuff we put on our pizzas, because they're flat and there's not a lot of stuff on top of it. And next would be pasta. If you've ever gone to Olive Garden, like my favorite place to eat, they actually used to say it was brought over by China, like people from China, but some people say that, some people say that it was already there. I researched it, I couldn't really find the exact answer, just that it was both of them. So they actually used to oven bake their pasta and not just boil it, so that when they went on long journeys that they stayed good with nutrients longer. And then it's estimated that Italians eat over 60 pounds of pasta per person each year, more than Americans. And also another food is, when I was little, my mom would make these rolled up mozzarella cheese and then little tiny tomatoes and put them on a toothpick and put vinegar on them with some other spices, and that pretty much was like a snack that my dad taught her how to make. And another food, dessert, is back home there's this amusement park about 2 hours away from me. It's called Lagoon, and if you've been there, there's this place called this Italian place that would give you gelato with ice, like Italian ice, and that dates back to the 16th century, and it's known as Italian ice cream, and it has a lower percentage of fat, and it's a few degrees colder when made, which is why it melts in your mouth faster, and gelato just means frozen. Okay, now on to the life of Italy. The language spoken there, Italian, of course, is the main, but it's not listed in the Constitution as the main language, although many places say, wrote down that it is. Some other languages are French, Greek, German, Croatian, and more. And some of the religions and holidays there is 71.4% belong to the Christian church, but 93% of the Christian church is Catholic. So, and then the Vatican City is like the main point for Christianity, which is why that's mainly the religion there. And some of the holidays when I was researching this was pretty interesting, because the first legit site I went to said pretty much the same thing as here, so it's pretty much saying, why are you researching this? So they celebrate an Easter, which lasts an entire week, and then Christmas, and some other ones that are here too. So also when I was researching, my mom's like, I was like, what are some interesting things that I can say? And she's like, healthcare. And my dad's like, really? That's the interesting thing you would think of? But it is actually interesting because it's pretty much you go and you get this card and it's paid, like your visits, treatments, everything are covered by the public system. Also, dental treatments are covered as well. If you're wealthy, however, you can get a private healthcare, which you can choose if, like, who your doctor is and stuff. So, but my dad also said that the hospitals there are kind of gross, and you're allowed to have animals in there, and definitely it's free, but it's not very clean. So, some of the landmarks that make Italy interesting is the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And it stands at 60 meters, and until 1990 was leaning at about a 10-degree angle. And it makes up, it's one of the buildings that makes up the cathedral complex, and it has about 207 columns in it. Another one is the Colosseum, and that was used for gladiator fights or wild animal fights, which I thought was, interesting. But 2/3 of the building was destroyed by natural causes. So like weather stuff. And the next is the Trevi Fountain, one of the oldest water sources in Rome, and it's made from the same materials as the Colosseum. And there it's like a tradition to get coins thrown behind your back into the fountain, and it is a crime to steal those coins from out of it. But there was one guy that did it for about 36 years, and then he got caught in 2002 for stealing them. The fountain stone has been 3 different colors. It's been black, red, and then the normal color of the stone. It was red because some vandal put red dye into the water, and they thought it was going to stain the stone forever, but luckily it drained out fast enough to catch it. In conclusion, I talked about the food of Italy, the life in Italy, and the landmarks. And my dad was giving me a whole bunch of stuff to say for, to close up my speech, but none of them were really appropriate. So I chose an interesting fact for you, and it's Italy is the 4th most visited country in the world. Thank you.